Do you all have travel food like patterns when you travel? Is there something that you tend to eat? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is good. You're both nodding. I thought this might
Yeah.
be like a trick question.
Yes,
What
yes.
is it, Julie?
Mine is I pack my backpack full of granola bars. Like I think I'm gonna get trapped on an airplane without food, and I need like something to get me by. So protein bars, granola bars, that's my thing traveling.
How many are we talking?
Oh, way too many. Like if I'm going to the summit, there's probably like 10 protein bars in my
We
backpack
do feed
at
people
any
at the
time.
summit. Just she's talking
Yeah.
about on the way there. Yeah.
And same
That's the
with
worst
water.
though
I
when you
have to have water.
overpack, those things and then you have like the squished up versions left
Yeah.
over that you didn't eat and you're just like,
Mhm. Definitely.
okay. Jackie?
Mine is Gardetto's, a good bag. I like how you're like, oh, healthy stuff, Julie. And I'm like, the saltiest snack known to man.
Is that the thing that's full of those like rye chips that no one likes?
Yes.
Okay.
The
I
rye
like
chips are my
those.
favorite.
I like those too.
You're the anomaly here, Kevin.
No, those are
So
the one of the airlines you passes those out and but they still call it like, would you like peanuts or pretzels or whatever? I'm like,
I don't
there's
think those are
two
the
pretzels in this
same.
entire bag and the rest is rye chips and other junk.
No, I'm brand loyal to Gardetto's, not like the trail mix knockoff. So I feel like they're my go-to snack. And then for car rides, it has to be Gardetto's and beef jerky. Like
Mhm.
my two beef jerky is always purchased at an absurd amount for road
Beef
trips.
jerky, you just got to be careful depending on how like aromatic the beef jerky
Mhm.
is. Like
Yeah, it can be smelly.
that can be a like questionable thing, beef jerky
Yeah.
on a plane. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's why I do it.
But
What's yours?
to each their own. Mine is certainly gummy bears on the way home. That is my um although as I've tried to become healthier, this is all marketers are liars. Now what I find often is I go and I take pictures of gummy bears and I post them and then I put them back and I don't actually buy them or
Oh,
sorry
courier.
to bust everyone's bubble, but I know everyone's like, yeah, when they're traveling, like, I can't, what kind of gummy bears are you going to get? And I just feel like I'm going to let them all down. So I picked the one that I would buy if I was going to get them. But after like a whole week at the builder show, there will be real gummies. I'll take a picture of me like about to kill one of them in my mouth.
Do
The
they have to
bears.
be gummy bears or just any kind of like gummy candy?
Gummy bears are certainly preferred, but I mean, well, that's not true. What's the and I'm not a brand expert on gummy bears, perhaps surprisingly, but the brand from Europe or Germany that has
In the
like
white bag?
the Habaro, is that what it's called?
Oh yeah.
No, not Habaro.
I,
Anyway, like the whatever mix of weird shaped like
Yes, yes,
marshmallow
I know
gummy
what you mean.
combinations, all
In
kinds
the
of
gold
interesting
bag.
things.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's gold, but anyway, I do like the variety there. Variety is the spice of life. But no, yeah, and of course we're talking about all this because the Builders Show is right around the corner. In fact, I won't be on next week's episode, so you may not hear my voice for a little while. But we will be recording a podcast at the show again this year. So I always like to what's everyone's, but yeah, I'm with you. The Without fail, if I do not pack some type of little cracker or snack or something, Julie, my plane's getting delayed or I'm stuck on the plane.
Yep.
When I
Yep.
have it, it never happens.
Yeah.
Just like, I bought a snowblower that I've used twice in the last 6 years
Mm-hmm.
after being in,
How it
but
works.
anyway.
it's a good luck charm then.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's the right way. That's the good perspective. All right, let's get started. Welcome to episode 325. I'm Kevin Oakley, and with me today is Jackie Lipinski and Julie Jarnagin.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
welcome. And I have, not exaggerating, 6 things queued up in my Slack to myself. That's where the really important notes get sent, a Slack to myself of things that I could talk about story time. But I'm going to let you all set the scene and I'll see what fits for time allotted and energy level. If you two are too nice, I'll go negative. If you're both negative, I'll go nice. We'll see how this works out. Jackie, you're up first.
Sure. So I had a call a few weeks ago with a builder, and the conversation, it was kind of like 2 or 3 builders, but sometimes there's echoes. And the echo was problems that were only found once the marketer visited the community. And for example, one of them was this community is not selling, the sales agents are complaining. And she drove there and they were selling for months, and the sign said coming soon. as a call out and it wasn't checked. And so part of me, I went to LinkedIn and I went in all access and I was like, I just want to get a feel for how often are people actually visiting their sites, and do you see value visiting more frequently, or what does that look like? And maybe to get a little more perspective. And I know we talked about that internally, but so far the feedback was about 35% visited weekly, 39% visited monthly, 17% visited quarterly. And then for the people who had the option of not as much as I should be, that was about 8%. So, and then the consistency is like just trying to get out on a regular basis. And then I'm sure there's a lot of marketers who saw that went, I'm not filling that out. Especially because I was like, I want to talk about this on the podcast. They're like, oh, I'm not doing this. So, I think there is this balance of.
Well, first, let's all be honest and share what our own experiences were when we worked for home builders. How often did we all get out there?
I would probably be in the not as much as I should be, but also with the limited amount of communities we had at certain times. You'd visit and then you're like, all right, I can come back in 2 months. But I would also say one positive is that I had a very responsive sales team who was sitting site and site manager. So I never felt like I needed to overly go if I felt I didn't really feel like there were too much disconnects happening, but I would try to get out at least like once a month, every other month.
Julie?
Yeah, I'd say probably monthly. Probably should have been more. I'd say monthly. And that was the communities closest to me. The ones furthest from me, quarterly. Which I'm not saying is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely, from the very beginning, my second boss, and so it's different for the different companies I worked for. The first company I worked for, I would say at the beginning, it was like quarterly for a long time. And then and then it became monthly or bi-weekly. And then when I got to Heartland in Pittsburgh, kind of from the beginning, it was like, we are not making you stay here. Like to the extent that you want, and I wasn't from Pittsburgh. Like I grew up in Columbus. I knew my way around here. But in Pittsburgh, it was like, this is all new to me. And so from the very beginning, that just became a habit that never went away, is every week, at least half a day. And half days are pretty easy. And if you kind of like anything else, schedule around your schedule and just tell people, Friday mornings were the best for me. Now, a lot of sales teams maybe don't work Friday mornings. That would make it difficult too. But half day in the morning was awesome, because the morning is when other people usually would stop by your office and give you things to do anyway. You're not there. So then they'd like leave stuff on your desk, or they'd have to email me. And then Friday afternoon was awesome, because Friday afternoon became my fix all of the things on the web that weren't urgent. And a lot of it was based upon knowing what content I needed to, so I could get content. And then I could also interface with the sales team and sales management, visit model homes, look at signage. And then I could come back, and our whole team in the afternoon, it was, what do we need to fix on the website? Let's get that content uploaded. Let's add the pictures. Let's do all the things. So Friday afternoon was website maintenance outside of price changes and availability issues that would have to be obviously addressed all the time. But I really would challenge most people listening should be out there at least half a day. And some of the people that I'd give gold stars to in the survey were the ones who said that they actually would get to each neighborhood each month. That's ideal. I would say it's ideal even if you only have 5 neighborhoods or 4 neighborhoods, because it's relationship building, not just seeing what you're seeing with your eyes either.
Also,
our designer, real quick, our graphic designer who worked with us for 4 years, I don't remember the exact numbers, but she had never visited a home. She had worked there before I got to Heartland. I'd been there for like 2 years, and like she would look at all the pictures. So she knew our houses, but I was like, it's like, get in the car right now. We're leaving. We're going to go visit some homes.
I was going to say, I also felt like when I would visit, or if you visit regularly, people go, she's coming. And they'll make sure the job site is cleaner, or they're going to get yelled at for it.
People liked you more than they liked me. I think that was part of the benefit, was no one cared for at least the first 2 years. And so I just saw it for what it was. Because once you get to that, like there's the benefit of make it look good.
Yeah.
If you're going to be there often enough. But it was also kind of like I felt like I got the real scoop of what was going on. But yeah, I think weekly, but the quick math again is 35% essentially said weekly get out in the field, and that means 65% don't.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate the brave people that filled that out. Thank you.
Yeah. Julie, what do you got?
Yeah, I love when I have a meeting and somebody says something. I'm like, there's my story time right there. So Beth and I warned him. So Beth and I were talking with Anant at EYA this morning, and he was talking about some of the very technical things he does on the back end, HubSpot and different things. And we were talking about, well, some people may not be there yet. They don't understand how that all would work. And he said, yeah, sometimes I do something and somebody will say, that just took you 5 minutes. And he tells them, it didn't take me 5 minutes. It took me 10 years. So just his point is that, yeah, it's been 10 years of me slowly figuring all this stuff out. And then in the same conversation, more than once, he said something about, well, in our department, we're artists. So a lot of people think they're either the creative side or they're that technical side. And then they lean too heavily and don't try to ever go the other way. And I think he was just proof to me that no matter where you're starting, as you go through your career, you need to do the work to grow in both. And he's kind of proven that. So I thought that was smart when he said it didn't take me 5 minutes. It took me 10 years, because he's definitely earned that 10 years.
Yeah, that's a play off the old story of the guy who comes in with the hammer to fix the broken machine and then gives a bill for $1 million, and they demand an itemized invoice. And he says, time to hit with the hammer, $1, to know where to hit was the, other $999,000.99. I love it. Yeah. And I also like we're artists because, people struggle with one side or the other kind of naturally. And I think both approaches can be helpful, but one approach is I need to even out everything. I need to try to become as well-rounded in everything. And then the other approach is I'm going to over-index in what I do really well and try to find things to fill the gaps just enough on what I don't. But over a length of time, like 10 years, I think one of the insightful things about what Anant is saying is he is becoming a much more artistic person. So if you go on Anant's Instagram, he posts some of the most amazing photos possible. And he might, I don't know his full journey here between artist and technologist and mathematician and all the rest. But I started out on the art side. If you would have shown me the market proof algorithm in 2003, 2004, I would have been like, sorry, the accounting department's over there. I make trifold brochures and Sunday ads for the paper and take pictures. That's what I do. I don't know what this is. But from one side to the other, you become an expert enough that then the other side starts to mean something to you that it didn't. Does that make sense? Like really good art also has math in it, hidden math, right? Like the golden triangle and the magic ratios and rule of thirds there. So it's okay to go all in on one side you're really strong with, but then you, at some point when you've hit a level, go back and look at the other side. And I think a lot of times you'll be surprised at how much the things that didn't make sense to you now start to, at least you understand their purpose and value them differently. Too.
Yeah. And I think what I respect too is what ownership he takes of all of it. It's not like I need to hit these goals to keep leadership off my back or to answer the questions. It seems like when he talks about those things, he's really takes pride in all that work he's done. So it was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
And that's, again, taking pride is often seen as a quasi negative thing. We work with a lot of women in marketing and advertising who struggle with like, well, I don't think I should have to say that I've worked on this for 10 years. Okay. But like to Anant's point, and I say this all the time too, I'm trying things on coaching calls with our builders all the time, analogies, stories, examples, so that when I do a talk or whatever, I feel like I've got. Anant found a really great way to make his point, but not be arrogant.
Mhm.
It's funny, it's witty, it's, so keep looking for ways to do that. That doesn't have to be, I told you I'm awesome. I'm freaking awesome. Back
Yeah.
off. That doesn't have to be how it comes across, you know? Okay. I'm going to keep mine. Yeah. I'll just, one controversial thing that Beth isn't on. So I'll hear about this from her, but we can talk about it without her. That's half the fun. The first thing is a quote that I heard on Sunday night, for the first time. And I looked and I can't figure out where he got it from. So maybe Kyle, I'll give you full credit, Kyle. Fear is often caused by a temporary loss of perspective. I'll say it again slower. Fear is often caused by a temporary loss of perspective. Fear of a giant burning physical fire in front of you is there to save your life. There's no loss of perspective. You should leave the room if the rest of the room is on fire. That's not what we're talking about. That's why it's often caused by a temporary loss of perspective. Why are we scared to give candid feedback? Or why are we scared to tell our boss the truth that they need to hear? Or why are we scared? Like, a lot of this is a rational fear of, we hear this all the time. Well, I can't say that, Kevin, because they might fire me. Okay. And there are 4 other companies who will hire you. It's okay. Like, your heart will not stop beating. In fact, just last night, a friend of mine, he has a gap week between jobs. He quit a job before he had a job, got a new job almost instantly, has a week where he's not doing anything. And my other friend, who's an ER doc, turns to his wife and goes, holy cow, can you like just imagine that? Like, you're so confident in your ability that you just say, you know what, this job's not working. You quit it, you get a new one, and then you get a whole week off and you just get to like do what you want to do. Like, he, in his mind, he cannot fathom that flexibility and confidence. But the ironic thing is, like, how in demand are ER docs? They're also through the roof. So I just think that for a lot of things that people struggle with or are scared of, take a moment to figure out, do we have the right perspective? Or really just perspective even outside of fear? Are we looking at this from every angle possible, and which one is the best one to look at it from? I think there's a lot of, I know I get accused of being too esoteric, but I promise if you sit in a quiet room and think about that for 5 minutes, things will start lighting up in your brain about, oh yeah, it applies to that. It applies to that. It applies to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm guilty of that. Kind of, I think, worst case scenario sometimes. And then we hang on to that. And I think it's okay to work through those things, but then realize that it could also go great and take a chance. So, yeah, I love that.
All right, here's the controversial one. People who do search engine optimization work often call themselves SEOs. It's kind of a weird, like, I don't even know what are the grammatical errors going on there. Like, it seems wrong to me, but that's what they call themselves, SEOs. I think the best SEO is TikTok. I really do. Meaning, and that Beth hates TikTok. Her husband works in military intelligence. And so he has reasons beyond the scope of this conversation to maybe also be nervous about TikTok. But TikTok and SEO is at its core, someone's interested in a topic. I have the answer or more information on the topic that they want, and connecting the two things. I just keep coming back to, and I'm not telling you all to go start your TikTok journey, but I am telling you there's something amazing about the simplicity of how this works. At PCBC last year, one of the keynote speakers was the head of content from TikTok, I think was his title. And he said then, and I talked about this before, the only metric that really drives that algorithm is, do people watch the entire video or not? Mm-hmm. If they do, serve it to more people like that person who watched the entire video. That simplicity of the algorithm drives. Someone yesterday sent me a picture of a person I've never heard of. They only had like 500 followers on TikTok, or connections, subscribers, whatever you call them. And it's just him walking down the street, eating a chicken leg and talking. Now, it's wild to me that someone I know was watching that, and then I have to go do some self-searching as to why they wanted to send that to me. But regardless, it's like the person who made that content didn't have to think about TikTok's algorithm whatsoever. They're just in the habit of recording their own life, and TikTok takes care of the rest. There's nothing to do there, which is like the ultimate connection of whoever wants to watch people eat chicken while walking and sharing thoughts on life, they found this video. And I that's it. I don't know. If you all have any thoughts on that?
Well, I
They're
think
always like, what are
there's
we
so
supposed
many
to do with this?
there's so many conversations about how to hack the algorithm. Like, what do we do to make our stuff show up more? And I mean, a lot of times the answer is just create more content,
Yeah.
that's worth something. So it's less about hacking it and trying to figure it out and just
Yeah.
creating good stuff.
Okay, that's actually Jackie, I'll let you go here in a second, but
Yeah.
you just clarified something for me, because the other answer that a lot of my content creation friends would say is, you actually don't need more content, you need better content. Your content sucks. That's the problem. It's not that you don't make enough of it, it's that it's not actually good enough to break through. But TikTok is a differentiator in that it is more of a quantity over quality game. So if you have struggles with quality, but you can do quantity, it seems like you would be more successful there than on a platform that has other metrics that it's considering, like actual engagement. Who wants to converse with the guy eating chicken talking about the meaning of life? There's like no comments on the video, but it's still getting a lot of views. So yeah, anyway, that's something else that you just kind
Yeah.
of help me.
I think it's the strategy we always see and we talk about of like a rising tide raises all ships. And I think every marketer, and especially when TikTok first came out, everyone was like, look, we went viral. Look, we went viral. And they're not necessarily focusing on what we talked about last time, the smallest viable market, Kevin, where it's like this video is for 100 people and that's okay. We want that to be seen by those people. But I will agree that some marketers don't maybe, I don't want to say have what it takes to create interesting content, but I think they need to recognize that if you're creating the same content over and over and it's not getting that engagement, it's not doing that, like you need to be innovative, you need to try new things, and you need to get maybe take off the brand, like loosen the brand box a little bit and see what you can lean into and what brings value. I talked to another marketer who was like, hey, our agents stink at this. So we brought in an influencer to tell them and show them, like, here's just simple ways to improve your videos. And I think that can also help them be like, oh, okay, I want to try those new things, or I don't have to stay here. I can go a little outside the box, which is, I think Beth, hello, if you're listening to this again, she sent us this funny video of someone just, not a builder, but an agent just swearing in a house. Like, this is the, so-and-so counter. And, and it was funny and engaging. And I'm not saying any builder should do that. But I am saying, yeah, sorry. But I am saying, like, make it fun. So.
Yeah.
Or educational.
Yes, do all those things. The only thing that I think is a healthy tension there is try new things, push yourself, test the limits within the brand standards. At the same time, if you simply do the things that everyone else is too lazy to do, you can also win by doing things that are relatively boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, this is not secret sauce and it might fail totally. But for me, I'm focused this year on making potentially less content drops of my own thoughts outside the podcast. But I want to make like a 5,000 word article on something, because no one else, it seems like, wants to they either want to just write a book, which no one reads books. No one wants, I keep getting this ad on LinkedIn that I think is hilarious and true, even though I'm never going to use it. Because there's all these people who are like, you don't need to worry about content. Talk to us for 10 minutes. We'll make all the content for you. Like, keep me far away from that. They're never going to convince me that that's a great idea. But the ad just keeps saying, no one wants to download your ebook. And I think it's genius, because who does? Who like, what we want are these little smaller pieces of content. But if you combine smallest viable audience, or another way of thinking about, like, the most important audience you can have, with providing the most value, if everyone else is going to do 30-second sound clips, sign me up for the 15-minute video, which I
Yeah.
posted one and it was hilarious because Mike Lyon in our internal communications was like, 15 minutes, dang, I'm gonna have to use AI to summarize this. Like, what's going on? But that's just where I try to over-index on zigging when people are zagging. We'll find out if it's a terrible idea or not. All right.
I was just saying, Kevin, those are the marketers we like. We like the people who like not over try, but I think like they don't run away from the fire. You know, they're like, I need to try something different. I want to see if it works. I want to be innovative. I think, Julie, that was like your article theme. So
yeah, which, whoa, by the way,
I know, why don't we have that in the notes?
Let's start with that. Change the flow of the show entirely.
Yeah.
Julie, you wrote a blog post published on February 7th called "Marketers, I Dare You to Go First."
I did.
Tell us about it.
I did. Well, and this was just inspired by, we would be talking through ideas with people in meetings. They'd be like, oh, I love it. That sounds really good. Okay, who's done this before that you can send it to me? I can use it as an example. And sometimes there is not an example. It's like, this was just a good idea. And they're like, well, I'm going to wait and see if somebody else tries it first, tell somebody else, and then show it to me. And I get it. We have to use our time efficiently. And sometimes we don't want to reinvent the wheel. But just like you were saying, if you're too afraid to ever take a risk and just create something from nothing and try it, then we're never going to innovate. And we're always going to be trying to catch up with what everybody else is doing. So it goes back to that, quote about fear. It's like, have some perspective. Like, the world is not going to end. If you take a little time, create this really cool thing, see if it moves the needle. And if it doesn't work, if it's a huge failure, learn from it. Be like, why didn't that work? And then use that on whatever next thing it is. That's how, Anand with this 10-year thing, it's not because everything he did worked and was perfect. It was that he learned from everything that didn't work and then moved that forward. So I just think everybody's scared right now to try anything, and they want to see it first. And it's like, sometimes you just have to put on the creativity hat and take a chance on something.
Yeah. And so I always think of qualifiers or what people might misinterpret. Are you saying on a whim, take a stab at something?
No, I'm saying strategically look at your goals, look at what the company needs, look what's best for the company, what you've been doing, and strategically take chances on those things that are going to move you forward. So not just, I have this random idea in the shower that has nothing to do with anything. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about taking a chance on something that's actually going to solve a problem or help you meet your goals. Yeah.
I think I just really wanted you to give that qualification statement. And the other is think about timeframes. Things that you can test and learn from quickly can be acted on and should be acted on differently than things that are going to take you 2 years and implementation teams and software and blah, 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 blah to figure out, oh, dang, that wasn't necessary. So really understand timeframes when you're testing too. And I think all the examples you list in the article are perfect in that none of those things cost $1 million. None of those things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. None of those things took years to figure out if it was really. So I think there is something to the time frame part too that is important. Awesome. All right. Next up, a quick public service announcement from Becca. This is an issue that some builders are seeing, but it's not just builders, it's everyone. And this is a support article from Google. That in some cases, you're going to find missing sections of data in analytics right now. It's not just you. It is a bug depending on the screen. Like I'll see a lot of times in the overview screen, the data from January to August of 2023 is there, but then when you go and drill down, it disappears. So don't freak out. It's not just you. I'm sure Google will fix it. They have a couple billion, close to trillions of man hours to throw out the project, but it is something that is happening right now, just to be aware of. All right, first up for real from powdermark.com. Google and Yahoo updated email authentication requirements for 2024. Now, this probably doesn't directly relate to most of you listening, because I believe this is initially at people who send more than 5,000 messages a day via their email. But a lot of you are sending out emails in a single day that are over 5,000. So definitely things to be aware of. Let's see, how do we want to go through this? I think so authentication is going to be required if you send more than 5,000 emails a day. There's going to be tools available, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, sender policy framework, domain keys, identified mail, blah, 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 blah. You're listening to a podcast, I know. So go check out the article, but you will be able to authenticate that you have the right to do that. But you're also going to have to do the following: add an easy one-click unsubscribe option, stay under a 0.3% spam rate threshold. Spam rate should ideally be below 0.1% from these organizations. Basically, every home builder listening, you are way over that threshold by like 100 times in most cases. Especially all those realtor emails that you bought from a list, whatever, 5 years ago that you just imported. And anyway, we could talk more about email. But what do you all think about the article?
Well, so far one builder sent us the screenshot and they're like, what do we do? And we're like, it's marketing to be aware of, but you do have to work with your developer and IT department to kind of update your preferences and get that handled. But I appreciate the unsubscribe, because we, as a marketer, we want less people. We want more qualified people. We want people who are still shopping for a home, and we want there to be like an easy out button. So that doesn't scare me. But yeah, I think it will highlight the people who, like you're saying, Kevin, got those registered or those emails, or they're just like mass updates. And we've known for a long time that those aren't necessarily the strategies that you should be doing. And you should have more segmented and specialized emails. So I think maybe it'll help builders who are sending just things in bulk to realize like smaller is sometimes better. And you have to think about your email marketing and how to think about it strategically, and maybe how you can improve that moving forward. How about you, Julie?
Oh, I think my advice is just don't freak out when you see this pop up on Lasso or HubSpot or wherever, and don't ignore it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do something similar a few years ago when we had to get the domain verified. And that at the time I was on Lasso and it looked really intimidating. It ended up being a few steps. So don't freak out. Don't read this whole thing and say, I don't know what to do. Take it a step at a time. People will help you. Talk to your CRM people, talk to your IT or whoever is helping with that, and take it a step at a time, and you got it. don't stress.
And ultimately, less spammy emails generally is better for all of us, especially the ones who are trying to do it correctly. So yeah, just a heads up, this all went into effect February 1st of 2024, by the way. So for those of you who work at larger organizations, what they're basically saying is if you don't follow these policies, it'll be slowly rolled out beginning February 1st. And you'll just be moved to, in Google's case, you're going to be moved more quickly to the spam folder. It's not, and again, remember, delivery rates and open rates are not necessarily things to be trusted. Haven't been for a couple of years now, I believe. It's really just clicked on a link or not. And so anytime we talk about email, I just like to remind people, text only emails will get the biggest response. But if you want to be able to track, even in a text only email, you want to have at least one link back to your website somewhere so that you can get some signal out of the noise on email usage. Next up from Zillow.com, the gap in selling intentions between those with rates above and below 5% shrank at the end of 2023. The plans to sell gap has shrunk. Earlier research indicated that 5% was a tipping point for intentions to sell. While interest rates remained well above 5% since mid-2022, mortgage rate fluctuations have had little impact on selling intention of homeowners paying mortgage rates below 5%. So basically, this idea of people being frozen because of where the rate is having less of an effect. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yes, it was kind of confusing because the people who are under 5% stayed more stable. So it's about the same amount, but the people who are above, the rates have more impact. So they're going up and down depending on. So right now it's a little bit lower. So they're still being cautious. But I had to read this twice. Like, wait a
You're
minute.
being really nice, Julie. Kevin was wrong. What this is saying actually then is people are kind of behaving more the same, meaning they're less likely to sell overall, is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, the people who are under 5% are just slightly more, and the people who are above 5% are lower right now. So they're closer.
Yeah, but that the number, the peak was at 38%. People who had mortgage rates above 5%, 38% said they plan to sell in the next 3 years. That has dropped down to 23. And to your point, it's maybe come up a little bit since September 22, 18 to 22%. But overall, fewer people are planning to sell in the next 3 years. Is what I'm taking away from this. And that's interesting.
I mean, it doesn't say why that is, that has changed like that. But I think a lot of it is acceptance that we're never going to get back down to 3. So that 38% of people with high interest rates may have been waiting for, well, in the next 3 years or whatever, it's for sure going to get back down to 3. And I think now they see maybe that's never going to happen. But who knows? They don't know why exactly that is, but that's one theory I have.
Yeah, talking to some marketers, they're like, that conversation around date the rate, marry the house is just completely fizzled out, because you're right, Julie, they can't necessarily guarantee or say that. And I will say, talking to some builders, once the feds kind of announced, like, I think that they said recently the rates aren't going to necessarily drastically increase now throughout April. They did see a lot of, maybe more people were like, okay, finally they can, maybe they just trusted that. They don't necessarily think that that's going to be a big factor, but still it's that availability of houses on the market, and affordability is, I mean, it's always going to be a big issue for buyers.
I just think a lot of what's hitting people is that house prices are unlikely to go down anytime soon. And that's the big, like, gut punch to a lot of people, is there is this excitement in some cohorts of, we're going to get our chance, everyone. We've been priced out. Here's our chance. And so if you own a home right now, a lot of people are like, I'm not sure why I would ever sell this when the value of it keeps getting higher. The protection of 2008, 2009 happening again is you can't get 5 loans, when you have $20,000 in income for the year, like you could with a no income, no doc loan in 2008, 2009. So I don't think it's necessarily a speculative bubble effect in the same way, but I just know a lot more people that I've had conversations with are like, I just don't know why I'd ever give up a house or be excited to move, because whatever I move to, I'm going to feel like I'm, draining the bank account versus just using my home equity to get the next house higher and keep my payment the same. It's just, there's some clear distortion to me on affordability and housing that is causing some of this.
I watched the Zonda new house update. Oh, I'm so sorry, Zonda, if I'm botching that name. But they said to get back to 2019 levels of affordability, we would need, and then parentheses, isolation, a 45% drop in home prices, or an 18% increase in incomes, or 1.5% average 30-year fixed mortgage rate. So there's I think a lot of things happening. Yep. So if any builder is listening to this and doesn't watch that regularly, I would highly recommend watching that presentation from Zonda.
Do you know what surprised me though? It said most seller buyers tend to buy a more expensive home than the one they sold. That's not surprising, but they said it's 54%. Wouldn't you all have thought the percentage of people buying a more expensive home than the one they're in is much, much higher than that?
I think that's a sober reminder that a lot of people are not moving to it because their lives are improving. And that goes into discovery being really important, both in online sales and sales, and probably not enough content being made by some builders around, divorce, breakups, deaths. There's a lot of potentially not great reasons why people are having to move. So
Yeah.
let's move on so I don't get sad. Homes.com has got some big news. And by the time you hear this, it will have already launched. They're going to have at least one, probably several Super Bowl ads run. And they are spending $1 billion over an unspecified amount of time, but I'm guessing over the next calendar year to generate 80 billion impressions, they say. Now that's 1 penny per impression. Remember, you often get what you pay for. And so Andy Florence, you're a great guy. CoStar, fantastic organization. Homes.com, love you. I'm just here to tell you that I did some quick math. And if you would have given us the $1 billion, we could have saved you an easy $300 to $350 million on ineffective, terrible places that your ads are showing up and impressions that you are getting. On the one hand, I'm excited. We've got another entrant to the market who's serious and investing, and that's cool. Apartments.com has some good, funny creative that they've made. I'm sure Homes.com will do the same. They've got some celebrities involved, but I'm just telling you, if you're trying to create 80 billion impressions that reach 90% of households in the US and you spend $1 billion, you cannot spend $1 billion in advertising well. It's not possible. The amount of waste conservatively estimated is $300 to $350 million. So Andy, my cell phone is 412, just kidding. But we should talk because this is wild to me.
Did y'all watch the video on here?
I did. Yeah.
It was basically a commercial for their Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah. And here's the
directed
thing.
for realtors. So I understand where they were going, but it was like,
yeah, but here's the thing again, that like, this is what I'm talking about is this particular hype video was not good. Like compared to the creative that they're actually running the commercials, like they have also some teaser videos about it's coming that are pretty funny and, well lit. They used red cameras, I'm sure, like the whole nine. And then, this video is using like an intern with Premiere and After Effects with some electrifying. I mean, it's like
the voiceover was not energetic. I was like,
right, that's what, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, voiceover actress or AI.
Yeah. So we are excited, Homes.com. We can't wait, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be wild. I mean, and they just said millions of website visitors. So if I spent $1 billion, I would get more than millions of website visitors. That's all I'm saying. Okay. What do we got? And the last, that is the last. Okay. Favorites, things we love, things we hate. Jackie.
Things I love. One, thank you for listening to the podcast and correcting my English. I definitely had to Google Gardettos before mentioning that word too, because I was like, have I been saying that word wrong? So someone called me out for saying Tupperware over Tupperware. So just like some things take years. I usually call them containers, but I was like, thank you so much for listening. I love that feedback. So just, I love that you're listening and correcting my English. Although I will say, I put it on my Instagram and my Chicago friends were like, are we not supposed to say it that way? So I was wondering if it was just like hyper local to where I grew up.
While we're at it, frustrated is my Tupperware. I don't say the word, but that's like, it makes me mad when I hear people say frustrated. There's frustrated and there's flustered. Frustrated, not a thing. But if you watch trashy reality TV like my wife and I do, before we fall asleep at night, you will hear all kinds of people say the word frustrated.
Oh, yeah. Well, then I got in a conversation with a friend about laptop versus laptop, which I do pronounce correctly.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. They thought it was pronounced with a B. I was like, oh, I'm not that bad.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
And then they told me, go record your podcast. So that was
that's hilarious.
Joke. Sorry, Julie.
Julie, what do you got?
I shouldn't be giving movie recommendations that are
Oh
8
yeah, you
years
should. This is
old.
gonna be great. Mike Lyon, rate her movie recommendation, please.
Oh, he will hate this movie though. So, if you ever want to see a movie that no conflict happens, it is the calmest movie you've ever seen in your whole life. It's called Patterson, and it's Driver, Adam Driver. He was in Star Wars, is in it, and he's a poet who rides a bus. It's very slow, but it is like the most relaxing movie I've ever seen. So if you've had a stressful day and you need to watch something with zero conflict in it, watch Patterson. It's amazing. And it's one of these movies that like you're like, what was that even about? But then I've thought about it for days afterwards. So if you need a relaxing movie, Patterson.
Nice.
One. It's
Awesome.
on Amazon Prime.
So the thing that I kind of hate right now is Julie.
Oh,
Yeah, because the other like 2 weeks ago, she's like, "Hey, can you all get me a Grammarly account? It's on sale. Here's like this discount code." And Mike and I are like, "Yeah, heck yeah." And Mike's like, "I'm signed up for it." I'm like, "I'm signed up for it too." What the heck have you been not like you've been holding out on this Grammarly? I know it's
No.
not a secret. It's my fault. So it's a joke because people are like already. I mean, I like priming people up. They're going to be really mad that I said I'm annoyed at Julie because everyone loves Julie. But
it was in my builder show talk like 2 years in a
yeah,
row.
I
I
know.
love
I know.
Grammarly.
That's why I'm saying it's my fault. It's not your fault.
And Mike's response to it was like, "Oh, that's how you're good at grammar." I was like, "He doesn't need me anymore."
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
It is what I've found is with minimal training, it does get better the more you use it and understand your own tone and all the rest. But even with minimal training, it is of all the AI tools I've used, Descript, Jasper, ChatGPT, all of them, it is the most helpful. And I think actually, not that I want to go down a whole AI road here, it's the most helpful because it does the most non-automatic changes. It's very clear. Like it's almost as if Grammarly has found to me the perfect connection of human to artificial intelligence, of saying we actually want the human deeply in the feedback loop. We're not just going to go start writing random nonsense that you have to undo or change. It's I love it. It's been fantastic. So thank you.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I'm
I
on
feel like I've
Grammarly
had
a
an
lot.
account for 2 years now, and I was like, was I supposed to tell people this was?
Yeah, it's the upgraded one now. So
Oh,
they've got
okay.
the free one, and then you can pay a little more to have like
It's like what?
side.
Well, the coupon was for $75 for a year. I think
$75 for a year. Yeah.
pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Pretty darn good. The other thing that it's not a love or a hate, so this is, but I'm taking over the segment now, is and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but it's interesting how around the topic of AI, a lot of people are asked to speak on the topic, and they want to talk to me first about it before they go and speak on the topic. I'm actually just going to leave that there. I just think it's interesting. Again, as we go into the builder show, and I'm not calling anything out, but it's like, Olivia, never mind. Edit that whole part out. I don't want to come off overly negative. All right, that'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week. I will be in Guatemala, so another cast of amazing people will be here, and then we'll be back for the builder show recording after that. See you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.